X's to your question A. Remember, a good peer tutor pesters. A good peer tutor creates dialogue, not just dictate answers. They ask more questions, then give answers, and they elect the partner to read items aloud. We're going to work through each A problem, and then you're going to be coaching your partner through the problem. Read this with me. Find the midpoint of KL. Label it D. Then find the midpoint of side ML. Label it E. So we're going to find the midpoint of KL, and then we're going to find the midpoint of ML. And you can't just eyeball it. We're doing a coordinate proof. You have to do it numerically. So first, let's get our numbers on here. K is at 0, 0. L is at 2, 4, and M is at 4, 0. So first we're going to find the midpoint of KL. And we're going to label that midpoint D. So of KL, we add, divide by 2, add, divide by 2. And then we're going to do ML. ML. Add, divide by 2, add, divide by 2. So for KL, we add the x's, divide by 2. And we add the y's, divide by 2. Of course, that's 2 over 2, that's 1. And that's 4 over 2, that's 2. That's going to be our midpoint D. So D is sitting at 1, 2. And then ML, we add the x's and divide by 2. And we box our y's, divide by 2. That's 6 divided by 2, that's 3. That's 4 divided by 2, that's 2. And that we're going to call E. So now we have what's called a mid-segment DE because we are connecting the mid-points. That's D. That's E. So we've established that's a mid-segment. Why is it a mid-segment? Because we proved mathematically that D and E are both midpoints. So we can do our hatch marks there. Now we're going to prove mathematically so we're going to prove mathematically two qualities. We want to prove that DE is half the length of KM. So that's one quality we want to prove, that DE is half the length of KM. And the second thing we want to prove is that DE is parallel to KM. So we have two separate things, and we're going to be using midpoint, slope, or distance. So you have to ask yourself, if we're going to compare lengths, this is a question you're going to ask your peer tutor. Length, are we using midpoint? Are we using slope? Or are we using distance? And if we want to talk about the concept of parallel, are we using midpoint? Or are we using slope? Or are we using distance? Take 5 seconds for each of those, and you circle which one you think is going to work here. When we're comparing length, you should have chosen distance. When we're dealing with slope, parallel, you should have chosen slope. So in that note, we're going to find the distance of both of these. So we're going to find the distance of DE and KM. Let's make our distance templates. All right. So let's do the distance of D to E. And that distance, you have a 1 and a 3. We're going to go left to right. And then 2 to 2. And if you look carefully, this ends up being 0. This ends up being 2 squared, which is 4. So you end up with the square root of 4, which of course is 2. Then we want to do the distance of K to M. And we start with X, that's 0 and 4, 0 and 0. We square 4, that's square root of 16. And our distance is 2. And we just mathematically proved the fact that DE is half of KM. Now we're going to do a slope. We're going to make our slope templates for DE. The slope template looks like this. KM, slope template looks like this. So for DE, we go y minus y. So that's going to be 2 minus 2 over x minus x, 1 minus 3. This is 0 over negative 2. Then we do KM. And that's going to be your 0 minus 0. And then 0 minus 4. And of course, that's 0 over negative 4. 0 over anything. It's just a big fat 0. So now we know that the slopes are parallel. So now you're going to summarize our two qualities. We know that DE is half of KM because the distance DE equals 2 and KM equals 4 units. Then we know DE is parallel to KM because both slopes are equal. They're both 0, which means you must have parallel lines. So you have proven mathematically on the coordinate plane that this segment, the mid segment, is both half and parallel to the third side.